Okay,
We're good?
we're good.
All right. Good evening, everybody. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Marquette Township Board. It's Tuesday, April 7th, 2020, 6:32 p.m., and we are live via Zoom teleconferencing. So we'll forego the pledge for right now. My flag is outside. Randy,
It's already standing up.
if you want to do roll call.
Yeah, trustee Marks,
Present.
trustee LaRue,
Here.
trustee Everson,
Here.
trustee Wiegand,
Here.
treasurer Johnson,
Here.
clerk Rattari is here, and supervisor Durant.
Here.
Staff present is manager Gerard is here, Roger Zapp, our attorney, is here. Fire chief Dan Shanahan is here, and superintendent John Kangas is here. And committee members is Mike Springer's trying to hook on right now. He's with planning, roads, and recreation.
Excellent. Okay. We are going to remind everybody we're going to do a roll call on every motion, so we know that everybody's connected and can hear all of the business we're doing. Any public comment? We have a couple people in the public. If they'd like to share anything or ask anything. Okay. I'm just going to go slow so I make sure this audio connection is good. I don't want to cut anybody off.
I'm going to share the screen on the consent agenda, Lynn, then everyone can see the consent agenda.
Okay.
So I will do that right now. Can you see that, Lynn?
Yep.
Okay.
That looks good. All right. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
You do have
So
a budget amendment in there.
Yep.
That needs to be pulled out for action.
Well, we can, yeah, Randy usually reads it and then we can do the roll call anyway.
Yeah.
You want to read it before the motion?
Well, I need to, who made the motion to approve it?
I did.
Oh,
I'll second it.
Okay. Let me pull that up 1 second here.
is that the motion for the equipment purchase?
It's the
Or the
budget amendment,
amendment?
yeah. So the budget amendment is here. 2020-03, and the authorization is requested to reclassify the expenditures budget within the fire fund vehicles department. Unplanned repairs to the ambulance exhaust system as well as future repairs will necessitate a higher budget to cover the cost. Also included is purchase of the ambulance as approved at the March 31st, 2020 board meeting. And the changes are $25,000 extra for the purchase of the ambulance and $4,000 more for the maintenance of the existing ambulance.
Randy, in as much as that's an agenda item on 9E, should we not just pull that out and put it with 9E?
Yeah, we could probably do that.
Yeah, you
If
can.
we don't, there's no point in discussing 9E, is there?
Well,
Well, the budget amendment doesn't authorize expenditure, it just transfers the funds.
Yeah.
so we'll just leave it as is for now because we're going to talk about it again on 9E. So it just moves the funds, that's all.
I have a question.
Sure.
Yeah,
On the last sentence, it says that March 31st, 2020 board meeting. Should I say special board meeting?
no, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, we need a roll call to accept the consent agenda.
Okay, trustee Marks,
Yes.
trustee LaRue,
Yes.
trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
trustee Everson,
Yes.
treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
clerk Rattari is yes, and supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay. Need approval of the rest of the agenda unless someone wants to make some changes.
I'll make a motion to approve the rest of the regular agenda as presented.
Support.
Support.
All in favor? Oh, no, we better not. Roll call. I know it's going to take a little longer.
Yeah, that's fine. Clerk retires, yes. Trustee Everson,
Yes.
trustee LaRue,
Yes.
trustee Marks,
Yes.
trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
and supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay. Agenda is approved. I haven't heard of any conflicts of interest from anybody, so we can go past that. We have no board education and privilege comment. Community linkage wise, I don't know who's been talking to the public, but there's been a lot of interaction. I do want to definitely recognize the former Republic Township Supervisor, Gary Johnson, passed away this past week. That's really all I can say about it without getting too upset. I want to remind the board too, if you have petitions for the next election in November, Clerk Rattari reminded me they were due April 21st. And I believe you need from 3 to 10 signatures. Is that right, Randy?
3 to 9. If you're a Democrat, Republican, you need 3 to 9. If you're going to be an independent, you need, I think 9 to 18. But if you're an independent, that deadline for filing is July 16.
Right.
But if you're a partisan, it's April 21st at 4 o'clock, and I will be in the office for that time.
Or if you get it there sooner, you can give it to Lois. You could.
Yeah, and make sure in each of the board members' mailboxes, there was a petition and affidavit of identity. Make sure you fill both of those out and make an appointment with either me or Lois, because your affidavit of identity has to be notarized. And I am a notary, so you guys know that. And Lois is also. So one of us can notarize it for you.
Will you be at the office at all?
Just text me and I can be here.
Okay.
Or
Okay.
Lois, or call and see if Lois is around. One of us can do here.
Lois is working Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Is that right, Randy?
On and off, depending on how many bills there are. She's coming in only to handle those things that need to be handled here inside. She's working the audit and all of those other types of reports remotely. So her plan is sometimes on Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Okay. Yeah, your best bet's to email or text her or something and
Right.
make that arrangement.
Or just call her phone, because she is monitoring her messages.
Okay. I did want to mention, Randy, Tari, because you were saying that we didn't need to actually put on the agenda that letter of support for the recycling grant for the
For this
recycling.
meeting anyway, for this meeting.
Okay.
But it will be probably coming maybe next meeting, or if we are awarded the grant, so.
Okay, so we don't need to worry about that.
Well, and you probably won't see that until late April or early May, actually, because I think there's a 60-day processing period for the grant applications.
I'm gonna unmute John, he can talk about that. John, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, so first of all, Ryan Diedrichson has done a bang-up job on most of the effort on that grant application. He took the bull by the horns and ran with it. And the idea is we are going after this recycling partnership grant first. And if we're successful, we will be following that up with a application to Eagle. Basically, the first grant would be our match to the second grant. Eagle's grant is far more substantial. The first grant covers $15 per recycling cart, and that's per cart delivered, not per cart ordered. So there is an upfront cost, but then you get reimbursed for everyone that gets delivered to a customer. So that's the grant that we're applying for currently.
So basically, John, you're just getting, you're looking at what the city has, those big bins, right?
Correct. These are a 64-gallon bin though, so I think it's slightly smaller than the standard size you see in the city. It would be the smaller size that some city residents have.
Okay.
But 64 gallons versus the current bins are 18 gallons, so significantly larger. The whole idea is as we head towards single stream in the fall, you will be putting your fiber and rigids in the same bin, and a larger bin will likely be necessary.
And if we're not successful at the grant, we won't pursue it any further, correct?
Without board action, I think that would be the correct course for sure.
Okay.
And this is, for perspective, this is very similar to what we did with the tunnel project. We went out for grants first. That would be the matching grant for the bigger grants. And that's what we're doing with this same thing. In answer to your last question, Clerk Rotari, if the partnership grant is not awarded, then the board would have to decide if you wanted to go forward with the project by putting in the match out of township dollars.
Okay, so that would come to us for at a future meeting.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good. Glad I brought that up. Clerk Rattari, do you want to talk a minute about where we are with the election ballots, and is everybody mailing everything in?
Well, as of today, from anything I've gotten from the state, we're lucky we got our primary in just in time before everything shut down. Unlike our neighbor to the south, which is actually having election in person today, which I don't think is a very smart thing, but they're doing it today. But anyway, we will find out probably mid-June or early July about the August election, and I'm hoping we can, because Michigan has the no reason absentee is basically early voting. I'm thinking if we do anything, it'll be by mail. If we can't meet in person, I think we'll do everything probably as much as we can by mail.
And does the public need to do anything, or are we just waiting until?
Public has to, they can't do anything because the state hasn't decided yet what they're gonna do, but at least we have the process in place to do early voting by mail. So I would assume if for some reason we can't meet in August to have an election, we'll be doing the majority of it by mail.
Don't we have something in May this year or not?
No, nothing in May.
We don't.
Okay.
So August, the first Tuesday in August is our primary election. So hopefully things are better by then.
Yeah, let's hope. Okay, and I just wanted to thank Randy, both Randys, Rattari for doing all of this internet teleconferencing and keeping us up to date, and the other Randy for manning the office and keeping everybody connected and informed. I just really appreciate that. It's hard when we haven't been in the office, we haven't been able to connect at all. So I just wanted to thank both of you. Okay, on to board committee updates. Do you have anything for us, Dave? Because I don't think anybody.
No, we haven't had any meetings, and the next planning commission meeting for tomorrow night is canceled. And the rec committee meeting coming up at the end of this month is also canceled. So, and as it stands, I don't see any reason that we would not cancel the road committee meeting for May.
Okay. Are you going to do the planning commission on the 22nd, maybe Zoom? Did I understand that?
Yeah, we haven't figured that out yet. Probably do that one, but the one for tomorrow is canceled.
Right. Yep. Okay. I'll put a question mark there.
Yeah,
And then-
I talked to Jason McCarthy, and Mike Springer had emailed me, and I think they are going to try to attempt to have the second meeting in April by Zoom. So
Okay. How about events, Pete? Are we kind of still on track for June at all, or?
I don't know, that's up in the air right now.
Yeah, as of right now, we are still keeping it on the calendar. We're going to have to make a decision. Today the governor or the committee met, the legislature met and extended the moratorium and the stay at home through April 30th.
We're
Okay,
hoping we can do something like that without jeopardizing anyone.
I think that was the one that was at the bottom of this, of the packet, right? There were 2 flyers.
Yeah,
Dog.
June, the car show.
Yeah,
Car show and the community dates in August.
that's what I thought. They were crooked, so I didn't really look at them. Okay. Sounds good.
Don't say crooked in public meetings.
That's right. All right. We have no committee reports, so that's good. Policy discussion, consideration and development. Approval of the annual COLA for residential solid waste following agreement. This is all to Randy and John, probably John. You got that in the packet on the screen. And I did send out the spreadsheet that John sent out, and I see that Randy did too. So you kind of have a double whammy on that. John, you want to take it away?
If you can hear me, sure, I'd be happy to.
We
Yep,
can
got
hear you. We can hear you.
Okay, so the solid waste contract we have with North Country Disposal includes an annual cost of living adjustment in it. And you have visited this annually, and it's usually a little bit past the date that it's due. So next year we're going to try to get this accomplished in February. But this year, the COLA that North Country provided us is 1.7%. Last year was 2.8%, I believe. So you're looking at a net increase in the contract beginning March 15th of $2,595.98. And that's about half of the increase that we had budgeted conservatively when the budget was put together last year. So we're well within our budget, and my recommendation is to approve that COLA.
And John, just so you know, this does not have anything to do with the fuel prices, correct, right?
That is correct. The fuel prices we're doing just fine on. I think they'd have to go more than double before we see any request on fuel price adjustments.
This is Ernie Johnson. I'll move to go with the recommended motion in that.
I'll support.
Okay, motion and support. Any questions, comments, suggestions?
I guess the only comment that I would make is the percentage that they're talking about is very similar to the percentage that we calculated for our compensation system for this year.
Okay. Okay, roll call, Randy?
Treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
Clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee LaRue,
Yes,
Trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
Trustee Everson,
Yes,
Trustee Marks,
yes,
and Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Yeah, thank you. Next up is consider a letter of support. I wrote into mine the city of Marquette, so we wouldn't think this was a grant request. This is held over from the March 17th meeting. And although the time frame has expired, I think it was March 20th, it was due for the city. We brought it again over to the new agenda. I don't know if you have a problem with doing this now to have, so they can have it in hand in case they need it, or say scrap it, or whatever the board pleasure.
I
I'll
don't
make a
think that-
motion to approve this is Clerk Rattari. I'll make a motion to approve the letter of support for the city MNRTF grant.
LaRue second.
Did you get the second, Randy? It was-
I think it was Trustee Everson, I believe.
It was
Yeah.
even.
Okay. Manager Gerard, were you trying to say something?
No, I was just going to say, I don't think the date matters anymore. Everything's been put on hold. So
Oh,
I think it's still effective.
Okay, good. Okay. Any other comments? Okay, roll call again.
Clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee Everson,
Yes,
Trustee LaRue,
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
Trustee Marks,
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
and Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 7-0.
Okay.
So I will get that letter put together and send it over to the city manager.
Great, thank you. 9C is consider management replacement search. This is also carried over. And I did give Frank Walsh a call and asked him to join us. I sent the packet out so he would have thorough knowledge of what we were talking about tonight. We did get an email, if you had a chance to look at it today, from him or from Randy saying, showing his welcome letter or his
Add.
I just looked at COVID. I don't want to look at that. I'll screw you. Yeah, to try to attract people to Marquette Township. So that's great. Thank you so much, Frank, for joining us. We appreciate it. I would like to kind of recommend that we do consider the applicants that Frank has. He's got 3 that he wants to talk about rather privately because of some confidentiality, but I think we need to kind of get moving on this, which is why I asked Frank to join us and kind of push this process along. So feel free, Frank, to say hi to our board.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to work with all of you. I've enjoyed your meeting. There are a lot more humor than the meetings I'm used to. I enjoy these type of meetings. And I also want to thank Manager Gerard. He's been extremely helpful. I can only do so much with candidates, and I've been reaching out quite a bit. It's very difficult to recruit in Michigan right now. But when I get a candidate on the line and get talking to them, they always reach out to the city manager. And both people that I have sent to Randy have come back and have been very enthusiastic about continuing in the process. That's a critical part of the process. So thank you, Randy. We have 11 applicants. I weeded out some of them because of my knowledge and fitting in, I think, with the Marquette Township community. But we do have 3 which I would consider stronger candidates that I'd bring forward later this month through Zoom or in May and Zoom. If you want to start with a Zoom interview first and it may be crystal clear after that. If it's not, then we can say maybe bring them back in May, as a supervisor and I have discussed this weekend, bring them back for an in-person interview. It's a whole different climate out there. And I have to admit, this is the first time I've obviously been through something like this. But it's just, recruiting in Michigan has been extremely challenging, as you know, over the last 18 months to 2 years. And with this climate going on, I'm also conducting the search for Saginaw Township down here. And I'm surprised by the what I would consider, knowing the people, the level of candidates that we've been able to get in both searches. So I'm impressed with the people that we have to bring forward.
Excellent. Can you tell us anything about them? I know the confidentiality is important. They're all, the 3 that you're talking about are strong in the respect that they have all the qualifications we're looking for besides?
Yeah, the goal is to set out and try to find, first of all, someone who is wanting and desirous to live in the UP. That has to be number 1. You can't go down the line and have somebody, yeah. Oh, my spouse, partner, whatever, doesn't want to move to the UP. We got to get that out front first. You got to be wanting to be in the UP. And the second, any managers with experience in working in the UP. And then those managers who, for whatever reason, nearing retirement, all sorts of issues come up. I won't get into the candidates at all in their backgrounds because of confidentiality, but I'd be able to do that at a later date. Our deadline for applications is this Friday. And this past weekend, I sent out a buzz to 121 managers that I know throughout the state. I sent them kind of a background about the board and how well you work together, your financial situation, the Lake Superior, all kinds of things about your community to market it to managers. So I sent that out this weekend, and I did get a call today from someone who has expressed some interest in Marquette from that email that they received this weekend. So that's the last piece of the puzzle. The deadline's Friday, and we'll know what we have.
Okay,
A question for Frank.
go ahead.
Frank Pete LaRue, what are you hearing that why they don't want to come to the UP?
It's not that they don't want to come to the UP. People aren't moving around at all. In fact, I just did the search in Alpena, salary up to $115,000. Being able to attract a manager, an existing manager, to go to Alpena, which has a long history of good management. They ended up hiring a downtown development director from Harbor Springs. They're very pleased with her. She's doing a great job. But my point is to get, and Randy, Mr. Gerard knows this as well, getting people to move right now, whether it's the UP or Southeast Michigan or anywhere, it's just extremely challenging. And I thought this was going to be one of the tougher ones. So what I've sold to everybody is the beauty of Marquette. Randy has a long history there. People don't want to come somewhere where the managers have turned over. You've got a great track record there. Randy's respected in the state. All of those things are what I packaged together. And of course, the beauty of the UP. It's not that people haven't, but what I don't want to do is spend all this time with candidates and then say, oh, by the way, are you sure you want to move way up north, you and your family? So we get that out right off the bat.
Thank
Okay.
you.
God bless you.
Thank
What
you.
else? Any other questions for Frank?
I have none.
Go ahead, John.
I don't have it.
Oh, sorry. Thought you said you had one. All right. What do you think about doing a Zoom with 3 or maybe this 4th candidate? Or do you want to see packets? Or how do you typically present this? Frank, if you had 3 candidates without having to do the Zoom thing, what's your upper end as modality?
Yeah, so typically I would meet with you, and these candidates have requested confidentiality. So I would go meet with you and go into closed session and go over the candidates with you. Doing that with Zoom, I have some strong reservations about doing that because are we sure we're going to have 100% confidentiality? So right now, I think, and again, this is all new territory to me as well. I think the thing to do is for me to have a conversation with the leadership, with whoever you'd like at the township, again, trying to figure out how to do this, but present the candidates. And I can assure you that the 3 that we have are the cream of the crop of the list. And I guess somewhere along the line, there has to be some sort of trust between all of us that I realize that, because in order for us to get together and vet them, it has to be done in a closed session. How do we do that with the circumstances that are going on in the country? Or if you want to, we can do that. Or if you want to, we can wait until May or June and then do it the normal way and meet and go through it in a closed session. It's a challenging time to do this, but I can get you the applications. I can get you interview questions. I can get you all set up. I can set the candidates up to be interviewed by you, and you can set a date to do that some 3 or 4 weeks out. And of course, we may have other candidates who come in between now and Friday, so we don't know exactly what the list is. So it's all up to you how you want to move forward at this time. I can handle it any way you want to do it.
Yeah, I got a question.
Randy, is Zoom secure?
Well,
No, not really.
it can be if I put passwords in for the meeting and only send it to the people that need to be on the meeting. But it is a tough time, as Frank says, and this is all uncharted territory. And I don't even know what closed session in a format like this is. So that's probably a legal question also.
Yeah, I
Well,
was
you
gonna
could,
defer-
You could have a video session that would be only for those that are participating and wouldn't be hackable.
Yeah, and I can put passwords in too, so you'd have to have the password to get on the video, so.
I'd like to see the
Well, I've got a
application
question.
before that.
Lynn?
You wanted to see the applications, you said, Pete?
Yeah, before that, so when you're talking, you know. I
Trustee
agree.
Wiegand has a question too, Lynn.
Go ahead. You almost have
Yeah,
to,
wouldn't it be possible to put a packet of information together and mail that out, or have all the board members pick it up and review it after Friday of the candidates that are being recommended, and then we could, if you're going to put together a closed session after that, at least everybody's got all the information, so it'll take a lot less time.
like we did last time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only challenge with that is we all have to be very careful in that I can only say, if I send you information, and I usually don't do that,
Get FOIA.
it causes all kinds of problems because the people who I send you have requested confidentiality. If any of that information gets out and they're not interviewed and they don't agree to an interview, we violated the Freedom of Information Act and the Open Meetings Act. So we got to be careful with this information and the candidates. I always present the information, but it's done so only you see it, and then you choose who you're going to interview, and then the names become public after they do agree to an interview. That's the legal steps we have to take here.
Right. That's what we
I
did.
guess,
We
Lynn,
did.
if I may,
Okay, go ahead, Randy.
The button's not working, Dave.
something for Roger to consider, but you know, as you know, I just went through the whole process with the retirement system and hiring the new CEO for the retirement system. We did that by video. We did the confidential interviews by video. Is Roger, is that something that we could do here with Frank, to have a closed session video conference with Frank where he could provide the information to the board in a strictly video session that would not be public?
Presumably, assuming that we can assure the security of the system.
Well, Frank, the
I mean,
last,
basically, that's not much different than what you did last time.
right, that's what I was gonna kind of update Frank. We had 5 candidates we interviewed after the board was able to vet the applications. Everything came into me. I did all of the background information with their previous employers. We had a specific list of questions for them. And then I copied all of that stuff and I retyped it and gave it to the board. They had copies, the originals, the copies got shredded. So we did maintain that level of confidentiality till we got until the actual interviews where the folks came into the hall. We did some closed session, you know, because of the confidentiality when we were weeding it down. So we kind of know how to handle that, but my concern is the Zoom part of it being private.
Right.
Any public discussion on just the logistics of scheduling the interviews was done by numerically, candidate 1 through 4, for example.
No names.
Right. Yep.
And I think, Frank, I can see as a Zoom, I'm the host. I can see everyone on the conference call.
Right.
And I can exclude anyone I don't want here. And I can provide a password for the meeting. So I do think it is secure enough to have a Zoom with you, and you can bring the candidate forward at the time and schedule them for, you know, an interview or what have you. Or we could talk about the candidates ourselves and then go from there, I think, you know.
So we could start with getting their information and either do a special meeting or make it part of our next board meeting, because you want to wait until Friday anyway.
Right.
And start with a regular closed session in this format to talk about the applications and the applicants. We could start that way. And I would want you to explain to the candidates that that's how we were going to handle it, so they'd be okay with that. 'Cause
Yep.
I think you said at least one of them is retired, but the others are still working.
Mhm.
So we don't want to compromise that for them.
Right. Okay, so I will get you the information after all the reference checks, all that stuff falls on me to do to bring you good candidates. So you don't have to worry about doing any of that stuff. I will get you the information after Friday, because one of the also parts of the process is Sunday night, after I get all the applications, I look and I say, okay, here's the top 3 or 4. I do phone interviews with them myself on Sunday night. So, well, that'll be Easter this year. So I'd move it to Monday, and I'll have phone interviews with them on Monday night and get to know them better and make sure they're totally committed to this process and all of that. So we don't bring you people who are flim-flamsy about whether they actually want to come up or not. And so after Monday of next week, I'll be able to get you the information in confidence, and then we'll go from there and set up a time to have a closed session.
Okay, we
That
can,
work?
we kind of kicked around that if we needed to be in person or wanted to see these candidates, that we could go into the community room and pretty much each take a corner, you know, and then leave by the side door basically, so we could have face-to-faces and not worry about the confinement of the boardroom even, because there'd be, you know, more people involved. So we could swing that maybe at the very end when we get to that point, if we have 1 or 2 that were narrowed down. So just so you know, I mean, we can do a face-to-face if we have to.
Yeah, and I hope the board realizes, and I'm sure Randy Gerard realizes that just how difficult things are right now in the recruitment area.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that the board will keep an open mind, because you're going to get something that I haven't been able to bring to the last 5 communities I've done, and that is 3 managers. That's a little bit unusual. So the quality is there. Now, there's no perfect candidate. There's no perfect candidate, but I'm going to be bringing you 3 good people and maybe 4 at the end of the day. And I'll get that information to you next week, and I'll be in contact with both you and the manager, and we'll get the process rolling. And then from there, the board can decide, are we going to do, of course, that'll where we are with everything else. Are we going to do a face-to-face in May, depending on what's going on in the world? Or are we going to start with a Zoom interview? And that'll be another decision you can make after your closed session.
Mhm. Okay, how's everybody feel about that?
Come on.
Sounds good.
Good start.
I think it sounds good.
Lynn,
Yep, go ahead.
I have one question for Frank too. I think when you sit down and discuss with the candidate, or not sit down, but maybe phone discuss with the candidates, try to get a feel maybe for their wives, as to if their wives are on board with coming up to the UP. That's a
Or husband.
pretty big question to
Our
ask.
husbands.
Yeah, we don't
Or
know.
husband. Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, their spouses or significant others.
There you go.
Yes, absolutely. And that's part of the Sunday or Monday night interviews. It's 30 minutes to an hour for each one. And we really get in depth about what this is all about, and the things about the UP and all that sort of thing. There's a lot of stuff that we cover that night. But I can tell you from the conversations that these candidates have had with your manager, they're very enthused about the prospects of coming here. And then you get into the whole thing about when the process doesn't move along, can you keep the candidates there? Because especially if somebody's looking for a job. So there's a lot of things involved right now that I've never been through, but we'll get through it.
Yep.
Okay,
I think we're doing well.
okay, so.
Lynn, Lynn,
Go
I
ahead.
think when he sends them up the information to you, identify them starting with the letter A, B, C, and D. And
Yeah.
don't really put names or anything else or identify anything at this point in time in that.
Yeah.
Until we get to the next step in that.
Okay, yep, that sounds good. All right, we don't need a motion or anything to direct Frank. He's doing the job, so just let him go and get get the applications and stuff to us, whatever you need to next week.
Yeah, again,
I make-
I want to thank you for the opportunity to work with all of you. I'm really looking forward to finishing this process over the next couple of months. And I want to reiterate that if this first group, if it doesn't work for you, I'm here till the end. I'm here till you're satisfied. So however long that takes.
Great. Ernie, did you have something?
Yes, one thing, reading this information that Frank, that you put out, identifying the township and everything else associated with it.
Yeah.
I think it was well done. It was great as far as I'm concerned. Anyone reading it would want to take the next step automatically in that.
Thank you. The ad is very, very important, and I appreciate Randy Gerard's help in putting that together. The ad is crucial to attract candidates. You got to look at that and say, I want to live there.
That's the way I read it for.
That's
Are
why I
you
live
flying,
here.
Ernie? Are you
Pardon?
flying for the job, Ernie? You want the job?
No. I'm not
Ernie
going
knows
to-
there's at least one more snowstorm to come.
Yeah,
We
I
have
got
to
enough-
schedule around that.
I got enough jobs right now.
All right.
Thank
Are
you,
we
Frank.
good on this? That's going to be the next step? Good? Okay. All right. We have 9D up. Consider PILT for Lost Creek. This was also a carryover from the March 17th meeting. Do we have Ernie or Randy? Do we have an update or Roger?
Roger,
Roger, you want to comment, Roger?
A group of us met with the new director from Lost Creek. And the day that we met, she presented a proposal for purposes of discussion on just moving forward beginning in 2020. I had intended, and I think we had gotten so far as to even schedule a time to meet with the assessor / deputy treasurer, because there are some components of that really need to be delved into a little bit further. I've got some questions on that. And then, of course, that was days before we had our Executive Order 2020-21. So that has not happened. So at this point, what we have, should also mention, there's some litigation in the city of Grand Rapids. City of Grand Rapids versus Brookstone
Yeah, I think it is.
Capital LLC.
All right. Private sector.
And I've checked on the status of that. Briefs have been filed, and I've contacted the attorney for the city of Grand Rapids to just see how close that is to our situation or not. And she has not returned my communications or my messages, which is not, I guess, all that surprising in view of everybody staying home. But what they're proposing is to pay a compromise amount for 2020, which would be the differential. Just refresh your recollection, they're supposed to be paying 4% of all the shelter rents under the payment in lieu of taxes. But that only applies to those units that are rented to low or middle income tenants. At this point, our assessor has determined through data that she has access to that 34% of those units, or in other words, 51 units, are being rented to people who don't fit within the low to middle income category. So we had sent a tax bill, and it's not really even a tax, it's a service charge bill under the payment in lieu of taxes statute and ordinance for that differential of $82,000. They are counter offering a compromise in the meantime while this case is pending in the Court of Appeals. that's pretty much the status update. We have that on the table. We are not in a position to evaluate whether that makes sense or not, or whether we should make a counteroffer for some other amount until we have more information and until we have the opportunity to more fully evaluate this. And that means, and this will have to probably be done virtually. I will reach out to the deputy treasurer / assessor and try to set something up in the next week by phone to just go over that in greater detail and have something in the way of recommendations by the next meeting.
Right. There is one other item that's still out there as well. They have not as yet been in a position to provide us an appraisal of value. They are proposing that rather than appraisal, we look at their audited financials to determine the value of the property. And we have some concerns with that, obviously.
And they have provided those
Yes.
on what that's worth.
And they've now stated that they don't have an appraisal. And we know, at least not a recent appraisal, and we know from our tax tribunal experience what the cost of a competent appraisal really is, and their budget probably isn't going to accommodate them getting an appraisal. And any appraisal or evaluation that the parties do should really take into account the 3 traditional methods of valuation anyway: the sales comparison approach, the income capitalization approach, as well as the
Cost less depreciation.
cost less depreciation approach. We, of course, typically rely most heavily on the cost less depreciation approach because that's what the State Tax Commission tells the assessor she is supposed to use primarily. They want to use the income capitalization approach because they're a nonprofit entity, and the objective of a nonprofit entity is not to have a profit per se. And then, of course, once they do that, we're going to argue about extensively what's a proper capitalization rate. The proposal they have given us uses only the income capitalization approach based on their audit information and a 12% rate. I will have some thoughts as far as the appropriateness or the inappropriateness of that rate, but even a 1% difference on your income capitalization approach can make a substantial difference on your valuation. So those are all issues that the assessor / deputy treasurer, and I have some questions even with regard to how we arrived at our $82,000 figure, to just confirm that we're all on the same page with that before we would even put together or consider a possible counter proposal to bring back to them.
Right.
It is a move off of dead center, which is where we've been for quite a while, in the sense that they are looking to do something that involves payment of money moving forward. Not saying that this is an acceptable proposal, but at least, as I say, it's a step in the right direction for us to take a look at.
Are they current on their taxes? I don't know if that's a Randy or
No,
Ernie
no.
or, okay.
They're behind.
For what, just a year? Last year?
I think they were billed.
Multi-year.
Yeah, they were billed last year and did not pay it.
Remembered that, yeah.
Well,
Okay.
keep in mind, well, I know I've used the term taxes, but that it's not a tax.
Service fee.
Right, it's a payment in lieu of taxes. And what I don't know is, I don't even know if they are current on the 4% that's undisputed. That's another question I have. And then, even if they are disputing the portion that would be paid for those units that are not rented to lower medium income housing or families, the question is, have they paid the 4% on those units because they owe that as a minimum? And I don't know the answer to that either. That's one of the things on my list for meeting with Dulcie when we do.
It seemed like they had paid that. Ernie, do you know?
It's my understanding they're at least 2 years behind in that.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a question.
Go ahead.
I guess wasn't all this calculation covered in the service agreement that they signed and the bill that was passed in their behalf? And as far as their movement off a dead center, I don't see this as any more than another delaying tactic.
Pretty much.
Well, the ball's in our court. They've offered us something. And in answer to the question, no, there really isn't. It isn't covered in either the statute or the ordinance, because all the state statute says and our ordinance echoes the language of the statute is that they pay a percentage of the shelter rents. It can be up to 10%. Back in 1998, when the ordinance was adopted, they requested a 4% fee for shelter rents. That part is not disputed. The shelter rents are what they are. They're claiming that that's all they owe, and that's what this lawsuit that's in the Court of Appeals is. The part that's in dispute is the statute says that if you rent to anybody that's not low income, so we'll just leave it at that for right now, in low income, then we get to charge the full amount that unit would be taxed if it wasn't tax exempt. It's still not a tax, mind you. It's a fee, a service charge, but there's no formula on determining what the fair market value is. That's what gets us back to the cost less depreciation versus the sales comparison versus the other three methods. So we came up with a number on what we believe that is. They've come up with a number on what they believe it is. So it's just like a tax tribunal claim where people disagree on what that number is or should be. Because there is no formula prescribed in either the statute or the ordinance, other than to say if you don't rent to low-income people, then you have to pay something more. So there's very much room for interpretation. They've given us something to consider on it that's over and above the 4% shelter rent. They're not disputing the 4% of the shelter rent because we can't dispute that and they can't dispute that. That's owed on all of the units, essentially.
Yeah, it's dragging out.
Is
Same old game.
Okay, any other questions? There's nothing for us to do right here. That was just an update.
Yeah,
Okay, we'll keep you informed.
thank you.
All right, 9E, consider acquisition of ambulance and medical equipment supplies. We're going to put the cart before the horse. We've got the budget amendment. We'll put it all into this. Thanks, Dave, for mentioning that.
Yeah, and again, the budget amendment, all that does is allocates the funds, and it can be allocated back if the board decides not to do it. So I guess we've been over this on a meeting. The Richmond Township is now, as of the midnight on the 31st of March, is out of the ambulance business, so it is not being utilized currently. We have added it to our fleet coverage, so it does have insurance on it. If the board acts to say yes, go get it, spend the $25,000, we can do that tomorrow. I believe the check is in your bills payable tonight, so you would act on that. But I guess that's where it's at now. Is the board want to give the final authorization to expend the $25,000 and go get the ambulance tomorrow?
So
I'll make a motion to do that, please.
And I'll second that.
Okay. Discussion? Chief, did you want to add anything?
No, I just think it's one of the best deals we've probably made in years. Looks like it's pretty good shape. Just a gurney alone for $10,000 plus supplies, so you're going to get it for about what, $5,000?
Mm,
You know,
You know, the vehicle itself is a very small piece of that.
yeah. But I think especially today's day and age right now, what's going on, the sooner we get that ready and get it going, I think it might save some people's lives.
Or at least make it better for them anyway.
Right.
Chief Shanahan, do you have anything you want to add?
No, just thank you for the approval. Let's hope, I mean, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. It looks like a nice ambulance. Ready to go get it.
Okay.
you.
Anybody else?
Let's make this happen.
Okay, Randy, go ahead with the roll call.
Clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee LaRue,
Yes.
trustee Marks,
Yes.
trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
trustee Everson,
Yes.
treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
and supervisor Durant.
Yes?
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, thank you. You don't have to leave right now, Chief, to go get it. Look like you were walking out.
Oh, no, not yet. Oh, that's right. You can see me.
Yeah,
All
I think you'll be impressed when he gets here and you have a chance to take a look at it. It's I think it's a really good deal.
Yeah. seems like
Very
it.
clean.
And then again, this will be our primary. That's kind of the intent, and we'll use the current one as the backup.
Yeah, that's the intent.
It's newer, it's in better shape. It's not,
It's in better shape.
And it's four-wheel drive.
Yeah.
That's a huge, huge asset. It is four-wheel drive.
Good.
good deal.
Very well maintained.
Okay. We still have a little bit of public. Does anybody want to say anything? Address anything?
I have no emails that came in for public comment, so
Okay. All right, any announcements anybody wants to share? Yes, Randy.
okay, as I stated before, for the residents, for the public watching this meeting, if you're going to run for the township board, you have till April 21st at 4 o'clock to get your petition in. And get a hold of myself or Lois in the township office. We can mail you a petition and affidavit of identity if you so desire. And it's a reminder for the board members too to get everything in by Tuesday, the 21st at 4 o'clock. I will be in the office till 4 o'clock that day. And that's for anyone running as a partisan, which is a party, so a Democrat or Republican. If you're going to run as an independent, you have another date, which is in July 16th, to get your petition in. And the requirements are different for that. And I would go over that with you if you want to do that also.
Lynn, I have a comment.
Go ahead, Pete.
What's happening right now, everyone's being confined and you're allowed to go walk out. Just while you're driving around, if you have to go out, just be careful of people walking with dogs or on leashes, but all of a sudden the dog might stray off. So, you know, we're supposed to give the bicycle 3 feet. We'll give the human beings a little bit more because, you know, we don't want nothing to happen. And there are a lot of people out there walking with their dogs and that. So, and just be careful out there.
I think the biggest thing that people need to realize is that with the closure of most of the public parks and possible closure of the bike paths, people will be walking on the public roadways. So please be aware of the 25-mile speed limit. All of the roads in Marquette Township are 25 miles an hour de facto unless they're posted at a different speed. So if there's no signs, it's 25 miles an hour.
And we don't have a path alongside the road. We just got the road itself, so it has to be shared for vehicles and people.
For the most part, yes.
Yes.
Okay, any other announcements? All righty, managers report.
You do have a printed report. I don't have a whole lot to add to it. Obviously, there's not an awful lot going on. I mean, we are here responding to residents that are calling in, and we are getting quite a few calls during the day and over the weekend that we're responding to, keeping the residents served. But any questions on anything that was in the manager's report? I did give a kind of a quick rundown on what we're doing with regard to the executive orders that are coming out. As I mentioned, they've now extended the stay home and be I don't know, sedate, I guess you'd have to say, through April 30th. They took that action today, so it's going to continue right through the end of the month. So I don't know if you have any questions on what's happening and what people are doing remotely or whatever. I do have a list from all of them in terms of what we're working on.
Question,
Go
Yes.
ahead.
going through your manager report, you're talking about the 4128 corridor committee. You
Yes.
mentioned about the minutes for the February 11th meeting are attached. I didn't see those in there.
Well, those actually went out. Prior meeting, it's kind of a carryover from the March 17th meeting. If you want those, I can send you another copy.
No, I'll just look them up. I just have them in front of me, that's all. I'll look 'em
Okay.
up.
Okay.
Yep, I saw that too. I didn't think about it in February.
Yeah, well, I missed it when we put this together. Andra brought it to my attention, and I told her not to bother changing the packet and the agenda for that one item.
I got a question. We forgot time.
Go ahead, Pete.
I talked to Randy a little earlier before we started, and I'd like to have a comment on our kiddie park.
Being closed, maybe? Is that
Yeah.
what you-
That's
Yeah, we are in the process basically of having signs printed. What we were doing is we've asked the city to provide us the language that they're using for their closure so we can have consistent language. But all of our facilities were announced as being closed when this first came up, when Executive Order 21 came out. We put a notice out to all the residents that the facilities and all of the amenities in the township were no longer open to the public. The issue that we have at Lions Field is that the climbing structure is metal, and the governor and several others in the medical community are saying not to allow children to climb on metal structures because the virus lives longer on those. So we don't have fences. We can't really rope off Lions Field, but we are going to be posting, probably tomorrow, posting signs to that effect. The Well Road is another issue that we have. With regard to people potentially not observing the social distancing, the 6 foot, and having their dogs running loose, which is what the governor has said not to have. So we'll be putting a separate sign up there, basically advising that the recreational area down there is under the guidance of the social distancing, and if that is violated, we'll have to close that off. All pets have to be on a leash. So that's all going to be coming up here in the next day, certainly by Thursday.
All right. The tennis court will remain open.
Typically, you're more than 6 feet apart playing tennis, but that's all part of Lions Field. The whole thing on Lions Field has been noticed as being closed.
All right. I just wanted to bring that up. So
And we had talked, Randy, about Swimwood. Were you able to find out if that gate is working or not?
It is closed and secured.
Okay, good deal. You might have noticed too in the bills that we had some of our expenses for the computers. Are we good with 906 now? We've got new modems, no new computers. We had to do all this computer upgrade because it's so old.
Windows 10.
Right.
Yeah, because of Windows 10 upgrade. Actually, it was because Windows 7 was not being supported anymore. So we upgraded to Windows 10. The new server has been installed, so we have all of our equipment now installed.
It's all working good and
It isn't, we're just learning how to use 10. It's frustrating.
yeah, it is.
Well, and then, people are working remote. So they're remoting into the server. It's not an ideal situation with folks not being here in the office. So yeah, we're doing all right though.
Okay.
Lynn, I'd like to thank Randy for being up there, by himself there. And I was going to say there was all his friends, but I won't say that. So,
Well, there's 3 of us, me, myself, and I.
Well, and John's there quite a bit, and I think
Yeah. Yeah, and folks are coming in, and they can't do everything remote, and and that's why we put that letter out saying that they're all necessary staff, because they do have to come in here periodically to do things. Lois has to come in to process the bills. She cannot access the finance system from remote. Same thing with Andrew. Andrew has to input the payments, so those can get into the treasurer. So Brenda has to be here to schedule some of the projects for the service workers, especially construction projects that they're working on. We have had a couple of issues that have occurred where they've had to get out and do some emergency repairs as well. Fire department obviously is here. We are staggering the chief and the assistant chief, so they're not both here at the same time, just in case there is some kind of a compromise. So they're not both taken out. So we're staggering that. The captain is here every day though. So we have the command structure in place.
Good deal. Any other questions for the manager? Okay, thanks. Randy, want to review our motions?
Okay, the first motion was to do the consent agenda, and that was approved. Second motion was approval of the regular agenda, and that was approved as presented. Third motion was to approve the COLA adjustment for our waste hauler. That was approved. Fourth motion was to approve the city's NRTF grant letter, so a letter of support for them, and manager will take care of that. The fifth motion was to formally acquire the ambulance and the metal equipment from Richmond Township. That's it.
Good deal. So next agenda, we may have something, talk more about our candidates. We might not, we'll see. I'll just put it down so that I question it. And I expect to hear from Frank anyway sometime after Monday, probably, about that status. And other than that, I don't know of anything extra for the next meeting.
It'll be in this format still because the executive order goes to the 30th of April still, so.
We might want to have Vandra put on the agenda itself up in big letters via teleconference too.
Well, I have to do a separate posting, and that's actually pre-agenda. It's a cover letter that is pre the agenda. It's the first page.
Yeah, I saw that.
So that's a separate posting that has to be posted for these meetings the way we're having the format. And Roger says that's probably sufficient, so that's what we're gonna do.
I just thought if we were going through agendas, looking at them, it would be helpful to have it say somewhere that it was via teleconference. Because so often that's what we go for is the agenda.
Yeah, well, I can put a notation in the minutes.
Okay. Okay. Any board member comment then?
I have one.
Okay, Cory.
On the screen, I got a yellow box that says chat.
Yep.
Someone wants to chat with us?
No, you can chat if for some reason you can't hear us or something. You could chat in and say I'm having issues or something. That's
Okay.
what that's for.
I think you just saw Mike Springer just put a message up under chat. Or did you
Right.
see that pop up on the screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, if you click on it, it'll tell you. Mike is saying, as the chair of the current planning commission, it was important for me to attend tonight's board meeting. Excuse me. Thanks to Randy Rattari and Jason McCarthy for setting the technology for our community to participate. I'm looking forward to the first virtual Marquette Charter Township Planning Commission meeting at 7 on April 22nd. And he enjoyed listening in. So there we go. Any other board member comment?
Just for Mike, I'll send you the posting, what I did for this meeting. You're gonna have to do a posting similar to this for your planning commission meeting. So you meet the requirements of the Open Meetings Act as amended so far.
Okay, anything else?
I move to adjourn.
Support.
Okay, roll call on that too.
Clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee Marks,
Yes.
Trustee Everson,
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand,
Sure.
let's see here. Trustee
yes.
LaRue, Trustee
Yes.
LaRue,
Yes.
Trustee or Treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
and Supervisor Durant.
Yeah.
Motion carries. The meeting is adjourned at 7:42 PM.
Sounds good.
Stay safe.
You're
Gavel.
Nice job,